Mykola Vorobiov in Kiev. He's a journalist and a research scholar at Johns Hopkins University. Welcome to the program, Mykola. Thanks so much for joining us. Can I start first with the rare bit of good news, and that more civilians have now escaped that besieged steel plant in Mariupol. They've arrived in the relative safety of Zaporizhzhia. But as we heard there, Russian forces are continuing to bombard that steel plant despite this evacuation plan. And the city really has faced non-stop bombardment by Russian forces. Why is Moscow so keen to capture this Ukrainian city?
Hello, studio. Thanks for having me. I will just remind you that Russians attempt to seize Mariupol back in 2014. So when Russians annexed Crimea, and then after the military incursion of the Donbass, they pursued to seize Mariupol because first and foremost, it's a very large place in terms of the GDP, like a stronghold, as you mentioned, like Azovstal, a steel factory, and it's about 20, which stretches for 20% of the city, of the territory, which controlled by the Ukrainian troops. But first and foremost, Mariupol is important because Putin wants a retaliation. He wants a revenge because the city did not give up back in 2014, and the local separatists and Russian troops were kicked out of the city after they stayed there for 2 weeks on May 2014. Now it seems like a kind of retaliation from Putin himself. Another reason is it's Mariupol, which is an essential part of the Donbass region. By control, it has one of the largest seaports of Azov, and also it's a key for the land bridge from Crimea to the occupied Donbass. That's why Russians are fighting for Mariupol badly. They just literally wasted thousands of their own troops, and of course thousands of civilians. And you just remind about 150 civilians rescued, fortunately rescued today. But according to Mariupol Mayor Vadim Boychenko, around 100,000 of people remain in the city.
Incredible. Now, US intelligence reports suggest that Russia is trying to annex completely the separatists' occupied regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. Apparently, these reports suggest that Russia wants to do this by mid-May. Now, this is similar to what Russia did with Crimea in 2014. You covered that conflict quite extensively from the ground there. Do you think that this is something that the Ukrainians will have to accept, the annexation of Luhansk and Donetsk, similar to what happened to Crimea?
Well, it's difficult to compare to what happened in Crimea. Back in 2014, I would remind you, it was right after the Euromaidan revolution. And the leadership in Kiev, it was very fragile at that point. It was not as strong enough. And of course, I would say that Ukrainian army was very small and very tiny at that time. It was many times so. The minister of defense back before the Euromaidan revolution, he was a Russian citizen. So basically, the Russians did everything to disarm Ukraine, to disintegrate Ukrainian army, and so forth. And after 8 years of fighting in the Donbass, so Ukraine got more stronger. There is at least 300,000 of veterans with the recent experience from Donbass. And of course, I assume that Putin expected easy walk through Ukraine as it was in Crimea. I will just remind you again that it was so the Putin, he did not announce an invasion in Crimea. So it was also like a special operation. And these people who appeared, they called a little green man. So Putin even didn't acknowledge that it was a regular Russian army. So it was fast, it was bloodless operation, and it was because Kiev at that time was very weak and undecisive. Now the situation has changed dramatically. And of course, Kremlin leadership, they expected the same scenario to happen throughout whole Ukraine, as Kyiv and other major cities like Odessa, Kharkiv, and the same Mariupol, it will collapse and it will be easy work for them like in Crimea. But it didn't happen. It turned out to be like opposite situation. So, I mean, and of course, there was any single shot in Crimea at that time. And the operation lasted for 2 weeks. And Putin probably he expected the same scenario. But now at this point,
Yes.
they already lost more people. They lost in Afghanistan and then both Chechen campaign for decades in Ukraine. So it's not easy work for them. And I don't expect that they will seize the Donbass.
Okay.
Just to put some examples, just a short point. So there are two cities like Popasna and Marinka. It's nearby the front lines of DNR and LNR, so-called already occupied republic. And the Russian troops over the last more than 2 months can't even seize these two small cities. So needless to say about whole Donbass, it was just a hard work for them, and I doubt they will complete.
Okay, Mykola Vorobiov, we'll have to leave it there, but we really appreciate your time. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for coming.